If you've ever copied a winning ad, same structure, same script, and watched it completely flop, this video is exactly for you. And so the reason this doesn't work isn't because of the algorithm or the budget, it's because you only copied the visible shell of the ad while missing the strategy underneath it. And so in the next few minutes I'll show you the exact creative strategy system most e-commerce brands use to make winning ads each time on purpose without just guessing maybe this will win or maybe this will work. And so to understand why that happened, you need to separate two things that look completely the same on the outside, but they essentially do completely different jobs. It's creative strategy versus format. Also, if you don't know me, I'm the founder of Ecommerce Consulting. We manage over $500,000 in ad spend. And so what I'm about to show you in this video are the exact mistakes I see over and over and over again. And so most people make the mistake of comparing creative strategy to format. You have to understand, creative strategy is the essential thinking layer, while format is only the delivery layer. So while the strategy decides the avatar, desire, the awareness stages you target, the format only decides how that appears on screen, maybe through statics or UGC or us versus them, a comparison, a demo. And so for the formats you have to understand that they can carry completely opposite strategies. And so if you have a misalignment between your strategy and the format, this is usually the number one reason. You just copied a winning ad while you have a misalignment with the strategy of your product. So for example, a static ad can show a discount to a warm buyer or a problem-aware comparison to a cold one, right? But UGC can be a customer routine, a mechanism explanation, so they first understand how your product actually works, or just social proof. And so the core trap that most founders get stuck in is because they copy the visible container and miss the completely underlying market logic. Because you have to understand, brands that have winning ads have an exact strategy behind it. So they exactly know what works currently for their account, which awareness they should target, and which format they use to deliver the awareness stage. And so the shell is very easy to copy, but the avatar desire mechanisms that work for them is not easy to copy, and it's completely different for your brand and your ad account. So you maybe see a competitor who wins with UGC, but they don't win because it's a UGC content or because the video is so good. It's because they specifically chose that the creator looks like the avatar, has the same language that matches the niche they did research on, and the claim they have is backed by a believable mechanism. And also, if they usually don't explain the mechanism in the ad, this ad will eventually fatigue and they are not targeting the unaware stage. And so what that means is that they are maybe targeting people who are product aware or even most aware. And so if they know the product from this specific brand, you can't use the same ad for the same people because they don't know your brand, they don't know your product, they maybe just think you're a ripoff. So this could also be a reason why your ads don't work. And so in 2026, Meta reads the signals inside your creative. So they find people who match your creatives. A clear ad sends a clear signal to Meta. However, a mixed ad that calls out everyone, or maybe is a difference between the awareness stages and the structure of your ads. So you, for example, target unaware, but you don't even explain the mechanism or the reason they have this problem. This just confuses the platform. So the order is always avatar, desire, awareness stage, mechanism, proof, offer, and then you choose the format. So when you got this down, this actually makes a huge difference because now you know why your ads may not work for you if they worked for your competitor. However, if strategy is what really drives the ad, why does it suddenly matter so much more in 2026 than it did 3 years ago? Because back then you could just copy the same ads and they worked. Everyone who did e-commerce in the last 4 to 3 years knows that worked. However, that all comes down to one shift inside of Meta itself. So for years, media buying was the edge, right? Interest targeting, duplicating ad sets, bid tricks. However, that arbitrage is completely gone. And now targeting is automated. Broad is the default setting, and the old text that we used 3 to 4 years ago will get you unprofitable. And so post Andromeda, the model completely flipped. You've seen probably multiple YouTube videos talking about this update. Because you no longer hand Meta an interest and ask it to match the ads. You load the creative, and the creative now becomes the targeting. And so if you load the same creatives with the same strategy over and over again from your competitors, you target the same people over and over. And so this will kill your account because similar creatives get bundled and serve to the same pool. And so this will make your frequency climb, your reaches drop, and your ROAS decay completely. And so this is why you have to take a look at the metric of frequency. It should never run above 2. If it does, it's completely a creative problem. And so this is what you can see right here. If you have a repetitive creative, you target the same audience pool, your frequency climbs, and your reaches drop, and your return on ad spend goes completely unprofitable. And so you essentially target the same people your competitor did with the ad because your creative did all the targeting. However, if your total addressable market is pretty high, it could be that they target a different pool, and that's where you maybe get some sales, but after time your ad completely dies down. And what you have to know is that after 2 views of the same ad, the probability that the people buy your product is 0. But if you swap in different ads as impression 3 and 4, the probability stays high, and that's why concept diversity literally unlocks more spend for your account. But that's exactly why you have to realize that the reality of most of these ad accounts and the biggest brands is that 1 to 2 winner ads carry the whole account until they fatigue. And this is completely normal. Every ad fatigues eventually. However, there is a way to create ads that scale for months and months and months and can withstand at least $1 million in ad spend. But this is something I'm going to talk about later. And so this is where you have to create new creatives on and on and on. You can't just be lazy and lay back on the one creative that you had. And so if you don't have a creative pipeline, your ad account is destined to fail and it's completely fragile. And so this is why creative strategy is no longer nice to have. It's the lever behind your store. And so the rest of this video is the exact system to pull it reliable. However, once you accepted that creative is the actual lever and a repetitive new form of creatives, the question becomes, how do you produce good creatives on end instead of just by luck and trying to rip this ad, create this new ad. And so there is a whole system for it. And so quick map of what's coming. Don't try to absorb all of it yet. I'll break each piece down. However, just that you know, the system has one job: to turn research into repeatable creative output instead of just throwing out random ads. And so the loop you see right here is what turns creatives into an asset that compounds instead of one-on-one creating one ad and one ad and one ad and hoping it works. This will literally be like a snowball effect that you have winning ads on end on end. And so everything upstream, like the avatar, desire, awareness stages, feeds these concepts. And so everything downstream, like the execution and the feedback, sharpens them. And so this makes the probability of your hit rate increasing way more likelier. We'll now work it in order, starting with the raw material everything else is built from. And so now that you actually know about the core concepts, every part of the system fails without one input. If one input is weak, the angles are weak, or maybe the hooks are weak, everything downstream, what you just talked about, like the feedback and the execution, is weak and has a leak. So that's why we have to start with the customer research. And so your customer research creates the actual language of the ad. If you don't have the customer research down, you're just guessing angles instead of actually knowing why someone buys. The first thing here is manual research, and this can't be skipped. This is something I don't have in this document right here because this is common knowledge, right? You go onto Amazon, you read the reviews of your competitor, then you go onto Reddit, literally swipe through the forums and take a look at their language, what they use. You look at the comments from the videos about this product or this problem. You don't even have to look up the product. You just have to look up the problem and go into the comments and analyze their language, their avatars. Click on their profiles, take a look, how old are they? Are they women or men? And if you've done this manual research, so the foundation is there, you can use this standout tactic. And so you can research from your competitor ads and from customer surveys. So you do post-purchase surveys. You ask them, why did you buy our product? What was the biggest pain you had? What was convincing you to buy from us than from everyone else? How long have you battling with this product for? From 1 to 10, the scale. How much is the intensity of this problem? What is your desire? What is your goal with our product? And from the competitor research, you can just take a look at the best performing competitors, so literally established brands. Take a look at the hooks, pains, benefits, the different angles they are targeting in their ads. And so this is how you turn research into actual creative buckets. How can you extract the research from your competitor ads? Well, if you want to find out pain points that are winning, you have to take a look at their problem-aware ads and what they speak to. To which problem do they speak to? And these are the pain points your competitors are running successfully. If they talk about failed alternatives in their ads, these are comparison ads. So you take a look at the ad account and search for comparison ads, and these are the winning failed alternatives they are bashing, solution bashing. If you want to take a look at the objections, you have to take a look at the proof-driven ads. If they are using, for example, for an objection, a medical study, you now have the objection which they are most likely handing most of the time. If you want to find out the hidden benefits from your competitors, take a look if they use fresh angles. Did they implement a new angle in their ads they haven't talked about? Well, this is your hidden benefit from your product. And if you see over and over again the same repeated phrases, for example, in the mechanism they tell you, my doctor actually told me about this one thing that happens with my stomach. This is your hook language. Use the sentence and iterate it. Now you have a winning sentence that you can use for your ads. And if you see the competitor complaints, you have to differentiate yourself. So for example, you swipe through the trust pilot of your competitor and you see the same exact complaints from customers. Like, yeah, this product arrived, but it was 1 to 2 days late, or this product arrived, but it actually took way too long to charge. Differentiate yourself, talk with your manufacturer, for example, that you have fast charge or can implement it. And so the research also fixes visual congruency. So now you know the avatar, you know the right setting from your competitor. So now you know all these things and they suddenly become obvious because you analyzed everything. You now have a list full of the pain points, full of the winning failed alternatives, solution matching, objections, hidden benefits, just because you took a look at the meta ads library from a whole new perspective. And this research is essential because it will tell you what your customers feel. But before you can decide how deep your ads have to go, you have to know one more crucial thing about them. And this is how much your customers already know. And that's the awareness stages. And so if you watch this video till here, I'm sure you know about the awareness stages, so I'm not going to talk about basic things. However, just to make sure, awareness stages control the starting point and depth of the ad. You have to match the amount of your explanation in the ads to what the viewer already knows. And so you have to make sure that, for example, in the most aware, the customers already know your product, so they just need a reason to buy now. This will be done through promo, scarcity, urgency, or offer reminders, right? On product aware, they know the category and they only compare the options between the different products. So this is where you have to do solution bashing, comparison, proof, adding testimonials, social proof, and transparency can differentiate you so far. If you, for example, tell the exact ingredients and the amount where they came from in your ads from your supplement, comparing to the competitor who just tells them, yeah, we have ashwagandha. This is a superiority. This will set you apart so much. For solution where they already know the type of solution, so they need a reason to pick you and your product. This is where you have to implement your unique mechanism to show them that your product gets them results in a way better way. For problem aware, they already feel the pain. They just need clarity on the pain and how to solve it. So you have to articulate the pain and pick it up. Then you have to tell them that's why the alternatives you tried failed, that these are the hidden causes, and then you do the education. This is essential. If you only take one thing from these awareness stages, please make sure that for the problem aware stage, you educate them. So you make sure that they know why they have this problem in the first place. And on the unaware stage, this was actually the one thing I was talking about when I said that you can create ads that scale and can withstand $1 million in ad spend. These are the hardest to sell, but you will scale them so much you don't even know. There you have to literally do everything. You have to take them through every awareness stage in one single ad for them to buy your product. I probably will make a whole video on the unaware ads, how you can create winning unaware ads. So if you don't want to miss this, subscribe to my channel. It only takes a second. And so one thing you need to reframe is when your winning ad flatlines for no reason, it isn't fatigue or the algorithm. The market moved up a stage in the sophistication and your message didn't move up accordingly. So this doesn't only have to resonate with the awareness stages, but also the market sophistication stage for your product. And so the reason unaware ads work so good is because a cold ad starts at the problem and eases the product. And a cold ad can literally apply to everyone who watches these ads. So this was just a quick thing about the awareness stages because most of you probably know about it. However, these only tell you how to go, but in the saturated market, like I talked about, the depth alone from the awareness stages isn't enough. And so that's where you have to position yourself. You also need a reason and show the customers you are different. And that's where we come into the positioning blocks. Now, the thing with positioning blocks is that positioning turns your product into a specific reason to buy your product. For example, in saturated markets, better branding, better ads, even a better product struggles if you say the same thing as every competitor. For example, they tell you, yeah, you will lose weight, and then you go ahead, you have maybe a better product, and you say, yeah, you will lose weight. So this is where we come into block one, the new mechanism. You have to introduce a new process, how your product works, the logic behind your ingredients, why you picked these ingredients, and how they affect the body. So you will use new mechanisms, but you will do this with also new information, new proof. And so you have to position your brand as authority. Education builds the trust, but it reveals a problem the customer didn't fully understand. And so this works best in the skeptical, educated markets. You have to know your ingredients, your supply chains, clinical transparency. This all becomes positioning, and this is what you have to use. Like we already said before, right? You have to tell them, for example, where your supplements came from, why your labor is way better than everything else, and why they have, for example, the cleanest supplements in the world. And you have to combine this with sharpening your image and even creating a new identity. So you have to change what using the product says about your customer. This is very powerful when features are commoditized. So for example, your water becomes punk coded like liquid death. It's essentially just water in a bottle. But they market it as like the punk lifestyle, like, yeah, we will do this and this. So now average water suddenly turns into this lifestyle. And one thing I want to talk about here before we move on, because all these things are talking for themselves, right? Promo, obviously. Reinforce desire, talk about the pain again of your customers. Go deep into their minds and pick up exactly the thing they are thinking about on a daily basis. Sharpen your image from your brand. Tell them where you are and when you started. So make sure you have a specific identity. That's why founder ads work the best, because they literally know the person behind the company now and they have way more trust. However, that's where I want to talk about simplifying results. If you simplify results for your customers in the easiest language possible, everyone will understand it. We always go from the DUI. It's called dumbest user imaginable. The dumbest person in the world should understand your ads and your positioning. Literally a 5th grader should understand your ads, who you are, what this brand does, what your product does, and why it works better than everything else. So this will also help you getting a stronger messaging, right? Because if more people understand about your brand and your product, this will also help to make sure that more people understand your messaging. And so everything I talked about in this video so far is a whole engine that will run you in the early days, late stages, when you're scaling to your first 7, 8, 9 figures. Well, on 9 figures, you have different constraints, but this only scales if other people can run it without you. And this is the final piece, the team. And so you have different stages from your creative team levels and different stages in your ecom journey, because it co-aligns, right? Because of your budget and your knowledge, people who you hired. And so the number one thing people are at the beginning is that the founders do everything. You did the research, you did the scripting, sourcing, editing, everything on your own. You literally did multiple 9 to 5 jobs completely on your own, all at once. But once you have enough of a budget, you probably moved or will move into outsourcing low return of investment tasks. And these are, for example, answering customer emails, handling complaints, handling refunds, optimizing the store bit under the checkout button. For example, you add payment icons and stuff, right? But this is still the stage where you have all the strategy. So you do all the creative strategy. You are literally head of creative. Make sure that your KPIs are hit, that you're profitable. And so you keep ownership of the thinking, of finding out the winning avatars, angles, mechanisms, everything. However, when you start scaling, so you hire creative strategists, UGC managers, editors, designers, media buyers, everything at all, this is where you have to move into managing all these people. And so these people only improve with clear KPIs, long-term goals, SOPs, examples, and review cycles. So for example, if you just tell them, make me a winning ad, oh, they didn't make you a winning ad, well, now you're fired. This is not the system, because they can only produce winners if they know what a winner already looks like. And so you have to brief them correctly, you have to have enough data in your ads manager, you have to already have data from the post-purchase surveys, have a whole list of research, everything you've done in the last few years, everything in a document. So you can tell them exactly what they have to inspire themselves on. If you just tell them, yeah, make me a winning ad, make sure this KPI is hit, this probably won't help you at all. And so the brief here is an operating document. You have to have your persona, concept, offer, awareness stages you tested, hook directions, everything in execution notes, and you have to brief them essentially. And so if you connect every stage in this video, this is a full system that connects research with ideation, briefing, production, publishing, analysis, and then the next ideation, right? And this is what you have to brief the people you hired onto. You have to create a creative engine and not a random production pipeline with people who just send you 10 new ads every day and are just hoping that you don't fire them. This is not how you run a team. And so finally, I hope this video gave you way more clarity. You know exactly what to do now. And if you're a 6 or maybe 7 figure Shopify store looking to scale to your first 7 or 8 figures in 2026, I'd highly encourage you to work with my company. It's the first link in the description. Book a call now and I hope to speak to you soon. If not, it's a bye for now, but I will see you in my next video.